everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We begin our conversation this morning talking about the differences between no-till and conventional till farming when it comes to nitrogen application. SUNUP's Dave Deacon caught up with our Extension Nutrient Management Specialist, Brian Arnall.
Crops are emerging across Oklahoma, and Brian, right now people need to be thinking about some soil fertility issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on where you're at in the state and if you got any of the rains that could have come through this last week, we've got, a crop in the field, whether it's winter wheat or canola, it's in the field, it's doing okay. Some of the observations I've seen so far is that locations that are under conventional till seem to be doing pretty good on nitrogen. But the no-till, a lot of the no-till fields I've seen are a little bit short on nitrogen. Part of that's going to be because in the tillage operations, we're breaking down organic matter, and that immobilization from the available nitrogen taken up into the straw to break it down and release has happened quicker than in the no-till. And so right now we really need to be watching, especially in our no-till fields, any sign of nitrogen or even sulfur deficiencies. Now, we don't have to make the application immediately.
Right.
Our recent work and ongoing work is showing that the application of nitrogen, whether it's urea, UAN, or whatever form, is going to be better off this time of year if you time it in front of a rain than the first sign of deficiency. So our wheat, our canola, it can be deficient for a while, especially in a dry period. And it's just better off on your use efficiency if you can get it on in front of a high probability of a rain event.
And you actually talked about dry fertilizer in there and taking that route. Is that something that's kind of new to the industry, or is that?
Well, it's something new to me, and one of the things I've been working on is using a grain drill to put on dry fertilizer. I'd heard about it, and in fact I've had multiple producers come up and tell me, that's something that was done in the past, and so it's kind of reinventing the old. And it's not something that can be done on large acres. Somebody with 4,000 or 5,000 acres can't fertilize all their ground with a grain drill. However, some of the smaller producers that just need to get it on and have some time, by putting the fertilizer in a grain drill or some way get it in the ground, as long as it's low disturbance or minimum disturbance, is really increasing the efficiency of our fertilizer use when we do that.
Let's talk enriched strips. When should we start seeing the strips show up in the fields?
Based on what I've got going on right now and what I've seen out there in the field is if we get the rains, if you get the rains right now and we get growth, the likelihood is we're going to start seeing some of these show up. Now you got to have enough growth, so it's one of those things, the plants have to be big enough to use enough nitrogen to become deficient. So, at the time where you start having 50% canopy closure is often where we'll start seeing those strips. Right now, as we're talking, it's a little dry. We haven't had rain in nearly a month or better in many locations, and so there hasn't been a lot of growth. But as soon as we get some rain, and if we maintain warm for a couple more weeks, we'll probably start seeing those showing up. It's not too late to put them on. If you haven't got them on, get them out there, get them on in front of a rain using UAN, using urea. We're putting push spreaders into the county offices right now. If your county office doesn't have a push spreader to apply, let them know to contact me and I'll send them one right away.
There's actually an event coming up here in the next couple weeks that's going to help producers in these fields. Yeah,
so December 12th and 13th on OSU campus, we're hosting the Winter Crop School. It's a 2-day event focusing on CCA credits and applicator licensed CEUs, but also open to producers. And there's going to be focus on wheat management, IPM across crops, forages, soil and water conservation, terrace maintenance and controlled water features, and also a lot of focus on wheat.
Okay, and for more information on that, check out our website, SUNUP.okstate.edu.
Good morning, everyone. Al Sutherland is out this week, so you have me, and as usual, I'm going to start talking about drought. And with Mother Nature turning off the spigots over the last couple of months, what else would there be for me to talk about? So let's get right to it. And we start off with a very ugly looking drought monitor map. This is the newest map that came out Thursday. We see a large expansion of moderate to severe drought down across the southeastern quarter to 1/3 of the state, and also just a little bit of extreme drought, that red color, creeping into McCurtain County and the eastern portions of that county. Now we also see an increase in moderate drought, that's the brown, up in the northwestern corner of the state, up in Harper, Woods, Woodward County, that area. And of course we have the yellow, abnormally dry region starting to expand outwards from that drought into the Panhandle and also into central and western and southwestern Oklahoma. So drought is on the rise thanks to the unusually warm and also unusually dry weather we have been seeing. Now we did get a rainstorm through here earlier this week. It wasn't much, but it did put some color on the map, about of a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch across parts of north central Oklahoma, and up to close to 1 3/4 inches up in northeast Oklahoma. So that was a good bit of rainfall, a little bit for a little area, but every little bit helps, as they say. So why are we talking about this fast drought expansion? Kind of unusual in the cool season? Well, take a look at this 30-day rainfall map. That's including this last rainstorm. Just too much light blue on that map. We need the greens, reds, and yellows. Those are good on the rainfall accumulation map from the Mesonet. If you look at that map as compared to normal for that same time frame, way too much red on that map. OSU fans must be hating that red map. Way too many single-digit numbers showing the percent of normal rainfall over that time range. So not a good map at all. And if we take a look at the 60-day rainfall map from the Mesonet, lots of better colors on that map, the reds and yellows, especially across the north central up into northeastern Oklahoma, down into parts of west central Oklahoma. But again, if we go to the percentage of normal rainfall map for the last 60 days, once again, other than that area with the good rainfall, way too many those bad colors and the lower percentage numbers of the percentage normal rainfall down into the teens and 20s and 30s. So we have a few areas of the state that are doing well with moisture, but most areas, especially around the fringe of the state, simply need more rainfall or even snowfall. We'll take whatever we can get at this point. Now we might be seeing a little bit of a pattern change for the upcoming week. If we take a look at these outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center for the December 4th through December 8th time frame, we do see increased odds of below normal temperatures and above normal precipitation. Now that doesn't necessarily mean snowfall, but what it does mean is a little bit cooler weather, reduce that evaporation, and also get some moisture in here and possibly have it not disappear quite as rapidly. So we have seen the makings of a little bit of a flash drought in the cool season, a little bit unusual, but perhaps this pattern change will last a little bit longer, get some moisture in here. If it's a cold rain, we'll take it. If it's a big snow, we'll take it. We need the moisture. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
Oklahoma wheat is unique in that it can serve as a dual-purpose commodity. Today, researcher Ryan Reuter talks about some of the benefits of the cattle grazing system and how it can also impact your bottom line.
Wheat obviously is a really important commodity in the state of Oklahoma, and one of the unique things about the geography and the climate of Oklahoma is that in this area we can manage wheat as a dual-purpose crop. There's kind of a belt that extends from central Kansas, southwest Kansas through western Oklahoma and into Texas a little bit, where you can manage wheat as a dual purpose. And what I mean by dual purpose is you can plant one wheat crop in the fall, graze that crop with cattle through the fall and the winter, get cattle gain off of it, use that crop as a forage, and then remove cattle in the spring and let that crop mature into a grain crop and harvest a grain crop off the same acres. The timing of the forage that wheat produces makes it really valuable. Both the timing and the quality of the forage. So wheat's a cool season annual plant, and the forage quality of cool season annuals is the highest of any kind of forages. So warm season perennial grasses are typically the lowest in quality, and cool season annuals are the highest in quality. And that's kind of unique for Oklahoma. Most of our forage base in Oklahoma are warm season perennial grasses, native grasses, Bermuda grass, things like that. So wheat pasture complements those grasses really well, because wheat pasture is green and growing in the fall and the winter when those warm season grasses are dormant, and wheat pasture is also really high quality, and so cattle perform really well on it. Most of the calves that are born in the United States are born in the spring, and so those calves are weaned in the fall, and wheat pasture provides a really unique resource to stock those calves as stockers, those weaned calves, onto a high quality forage and let them perform really well and add several hundred pounds of body weight at a pretty low cost, pretty minimal cost. So we're doing a lot of research at OSU to try to continue to understand that system and continue to fine-tune the management to optimize that system. We basically have had, I think, the 4th driest November on record so far in the state, and so we're really dry right here, right now. A lot of the state that I've been around to doesn't have wheat pasture established this well yet, and producers aren't able to turn cattle out yet. And so I think right now, this year specifically, the weather is certainly, and the drought, the kind of the flash drought that we're in, is certainly a management strategy for producers trying to figure out when they can stock cattle, what stocking rate they should use, and we're probably going to have to reduce the stocking rate that we would typically use, and so that's going to translate into fewer numbers of cattle, fewer pounds of gain per acre, and that's obviously going to impact the economics of the wheat, of dual-purpose wheat this year. The Plant and Soil Sciences, they're always developing new varieties and management strategies to help with a lot of those things. Here in the Animal Science Department, we're doing research on precision supplementation in these systems so that we can optimize the cattle performance and use the nutrients that are available in the wheat and help stabilize stocking rates from one year to the next as we get into variable climate. So that's our goal here at OSU, is to continue doing research to help producers keep making better decisions.
In the past on the Cowcalf Corner, I've always tried to bring in some research data to help verify whatever topic we were trying to discuss, but today we're going to do something just a little bit different and bring in past life experiences that I think would be helpful as we look forward to the next calving season next spring. Why would I worry about next spring's calving season here in the first part of December? Well, that's where that past experience comes into play. I was raised on a cattle and grain farm in central Nebraska, and we were lucky enough to have one of those old barns that was built in the first half of the last century, one that had some stalls good enough for workhorses, draft horses. They made great calving stalls for us to use during the calving season. The problem is that they also were great for storing whatever we needed other than during the calving season. Such things as fencing material, lube that we might use on some of the farm equipment, perhaps even some seed for alfalfa seed or wheat seed. Those kinds of things were always in the way when it came time to bring in that first cow or heifer when she needed some assistance in, say, late February, March in our situation. So that's a reminder for me to remind you that now's the time to go and check the calving facility that you have. Wherever you're going to bring a cow or a heifer this spring that needs some assistance, let's see that the gates are working. Let's make sure that that calving area that we're going to put her in is cleaned out, dry, ready to go. If we're going to use one of the squeeze panels to help kind of crowd her into a corner before we actually give some assistance, make sure that those gates are attached, firm, and will be strong enough to do the job. It's going to be a whole lot easier to walk through the facilities and check to make sure that they're working and they're clean and available. It's easier to do that on a nice sunny December day than it's going to be in the middle of the night, in the middle of the winter, when you need it for that first time. Keep that in mind. Put that to use, and I think it'll help you have a little more successful calving season this upcoming spring. We look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cowcalf Corner.
Contract prices on corn and wheat are lower this week. And Kim, let's just jump right in there. What's happening with those?
Well, if you look at the corn and the Chicago wheat, they both set new contract lows along with the KC wheat contract. You look at corn, you know, it had support at $3.58. It got down to $3.48 this week. That was the contract low. It you know, came off of that a little bit. Wheat, we talked about around $4.30 being the support price on that. It got down in $4.25. Remember I said on that wheat, if it breaks that $4.30, I don't know how far it's going down, but it's just still wallering around. We're lower, we're below that. That makes me nervous. We could go down another 15 or 20 cents before we hit another support level. But the general consensus is that corn and wheat are at or near the bottom.
Is this just a seasonal trend, or is it related to the overall markets?
Well, I think it's related to the overall markets. Plus, you look at the professional traders, the trader commitments. You know, corn, a couple of weeks ago, we set a record on number of corn contracts short, 230,000 plus. Right now, the traders are about 210,000 short on corn. You look at Chicago wheat, 109,000, almost 110 short. The record on that's 162, but still a lot of short positions. On hard wheat, they've been running between 15 and 20,000 short. You go back 2 weeks ago, they were 10,000 short. So the traders have been mostly selling into this market rather than buying. Soybeans, good position. They're really about in the middle. They're about 20,000 long. Their range is 250,000 short to about 119,000 long.
What does that set up for, say, the next month or so for Oklahoma producers?
Well, if producers that are getting their soybeans in, we've had a good rally out of beans in the last month and a half. It looks like it's starting a sideways move. I think it's given them an opportunity to sell at a relatively good price. Corn and wheat, you've got to pay storage and interest, and those prices just don't seem to be going. If you're not going to hold it well into the year, and we don't in this part of the country, then there's no reason to hold it. If you're looking out at harvest, we're at the bottom, so why price anything if you're going out to harvest? Corn and beans, it just doesn't look like profit in it right now. We're going to have to wait till some commodity clears the market before we can get in any profit into those two commodities.
Moisture's been kind of an issue for the crops in Oklahoma, and you actually answered my question about harvest prices for some of those commodities. Do you think that we may see a little bit of I don't want to use the word rally, but price increase on those commodities?
I think that's going to depend on the quality of our product coming out. It's going to depend on that test weight. You know, if you can get test weight and if you can have protein, 12 or better, you're going to have 75 to $1 higher price with no change. You're going to see it on the board, right, because that board basis, that KC basis is going to go up, and it's going to put that premium in your cash price. But our cash prices will go from $3.30 to $4 to $4.30. The market knows if we get protein, we're going to blend it on some of this lower stuff.
Right.
And so it's going to take a little while for our price to come back up, but you get protein test weight, we're going to have a better price.
Okay, thank you much. Kim Anderson, grain marketing specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Recently, I was reading some information that was written by Dr. Keith Bailey from the Oklahoma Animal Disease and Diagnostic Laboratory. And this information related to chickens. In 2015 and 2016, the most common diagnosed disease in chickens submitted for necropsy was Marek's disease. Marek's disease is caused by a herpes virus, and chickens become infected with this virus by inhaling it from dandruff or dust and where other chickens have been that are infected with it. Now, this virus can survive for long times in chicken pens in that dust that's around where those chickens are. Now, typically, we see this clinical signs of the disease in several different forms. One form is when the virus infects nerves, we're going to have a deficit. So we'll see paralysis, usually of one leg or one wing. The virus can infect the eye. When you see it in the eye, you'll usually see a change in color of the iris. It usually turns gray. The pupil doesn't function properly, and a lot of times these chickens will be blind. It can also infect the internal organs, and where we'll have tumors that grow in those organs. The other form is a skin form in which the feather follicles enlarge. They may turn red, they may turn brownish and crusty in color. Now, there is no treatment for Marek's disease. All we can do is try to prevent the disease. And we can prevent the disease by, one, practicing good biosecurity, being careful what animals we let into our flock, making sure that when we enter the flock that we're clean, we're not bringing in the virus from a source outside the flock. The other thing that we can do is there are certain breeds that are more resistant to the virus. We can try to select for those breeds. And lastly, there is a vaccine which can be given to the chicks while they're still in the egg, or usually we can give it to them at 1 day of age. Hey, if you plan on purchasing some chicks this spring, be sure and have the hatchery vaccinate those chicks before they show up to your place. Or if you're going to buy them at a local feed store or some other outlet, make sure and consult with them and make sure those chicks have been vaccinated for Marek's disease. Vaccinating them now may save you some heartaches in 3 to 6 months. Hey, if you'd like some more information about Marek's disease, if you'll go to SUNUP.okstate.edu, we'll put some information on the website about this disease.
Finally today, pecans can be a great holiday treat, especially if we're talking about pecan pie. But we're not the only ones enjoying them this time of year. In fact, researchers are looking at how feral hogs are impacting pecan yields. SUNUP traveled to Love County to learn more.
Feral hogs have a variety of impacts on everything from agriculture to property damage, livestock interaction, and definitely pecans is one of those entities that they impact as well. The research is basically twofold. One portion we're looking at is we're wanting to see how much of a percentage you're losing to feral hog damage. And the other part we're looking at is, again, the resource selection. Are they selecting for a particular habitat type in this setting? In particular, we're looking at orchards and groves, growing operations.
Pigs cause an estimated $2.5 billion worth of damage each year, and that's probably still pretty conservative. On this project, the Noble Research Institute has always had a history doing feral pig work or wild pig research, and so this was just another one of our efforts to keep expanding our wild pig research opportunity. So when this opportunity came up and it was funded through the Noble Research Institute, we started working with Oklahoma State University. Pecans in Oklahoma are a big enterprise. They're a specialty crop, classified as a specialty crop in Oklahoma, and that's another one of our partners really is the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food and Forestry. We actually got a grant through Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food and Forestry that provides Kelly's graduate research assistantship.
I'll go out and we'll identify a damaged area, and I'll measure the area of the damaged area, whether it be a rooting or wallowing spot. And then I have sampling frames that I'll test 5 times within the sampling frame of the rooting depth. I'll measure rooting depth per each frame and count pecans pre and post harvest, and then look at the difference between the two, and then test it against the standard residual. This is just some of the extent of wild pig damage. This particular spot is 100% unharvestable. They cannot bring their machines in here to harvest. So anything that this tree would produce that would fall in this area would be loss. That's not it. I was playing around with it.
So this is what it looks like when pigs have been out here. Most of the time they'll just crunch it into a bunch of little pieces, and then the meat kernels will fall out.
only thing that we've really seen is from observation. We haven't done any analysis yet, but it's very apparent that they do use and utilize pecans as a resource. We just don't know to what level that is just yet. The end goal is management. We're wanting to maybe develop high risk mapping to say at this time during harvest they're selecting for this habitat type. You might want to target your management efforts.
You can definitely manage. Eradication is a whole different beast that we'll never be able to do because pigs are so reproductive, having anywhere from 5 to 9 piglets per litter, and they can have multiple litters per year. They can reproduce at a very early age, but we have had success in controlling pigs where if we trap intensively, we remove them from the area, and it actually takes some time before those pigs will come back into those areas where we had removed them from. So we have localized success in removing pigs. Definitely want to combine expertise, different resources that we have together, because it's not just a problem of one person, one institution. It's a very big problem that cuts across institutions, disciplines, different producer groups.
That'll do it for us this week. Remember, you can find us anytime on our website and also follow us on YouTube and social media. I'm Lyndall Stout. Have a great week, everyone. And remember, Oklahoma agriculture starts at sunup.